This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more. And if it's Tuesday, obviously you have to always give and donate to your favorite charities. Let Me Help is one of them. St. Jude is another one. So I've been looking forward to this show because not only do I have my favorite co-hosts on, Howard just popped out of someplace. Randy, so that you know, Howard Wiggins, his dad, started the Grand Ole Opry with Eddie Arnold. So he'll be popping back in.
Oh, great.
We got Carol Register there, Terry Marie, from Sherman Oaks, California. So I'm going to do this because this is show 154 live shows in a row. So full disclosure, Randy is one of my favorite composers. And, you know, the last time I talked to this young man was like 3 years ago, I think. And it's this when the world was locked down. And he's so creative. He's been kicking ass the last 3 years. I think this guy is living in New York more than he lives in California. But all the stuff he's been doing, you know, composing, he's, you know, I think of The Last Mohicans. I think of Dragonheart. I think of Angels in the Outfield. I think of all the songs that he's, you know, come up with, being that composer, that writer, that songwriter. And Randy, I do it all off the top of my head as usual still. But still, if anybody who knows me, my favorite music that's ever been composed is the one that he did, Last of the Mohicans. But here's the thing. This man has done so much other stuff. I've been telling my friends in Connecticut and other people in New York, you got to go to Carnegie Hall. You got to go to the Lincoln Center because he's all over the place. It's just like he's been like rebirthed, I think is what happened. He has. You know, anytime I call Eileen, I'm like, what's Randy doing now? What do you mean he's going to Tennessee? What do you mean he's won a Josie Award? What are you talking about? He's done a lot. So, you know, I'm going to get into a little bit more what he's done. But Carol, introduce yourself first, followed by Howard, and then Terry. Go for it.
Hey there, I'm Carol Register. I'm a certified neuro coach and international businesswoman. And I love, as you know, Brian, taking women from 6 to 7 figures. It's 100% guaranteed. I would love to work with you. Jump in, talk to me. I also co-host the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. And Brian, I'm really excited about today. You know, I was listening to Pat Wants to Know. Wow, what a powerful song. I was really left with this longing, this intense longing at my heart that my brain wanted to totally resolve. I was like, she wants to know.
So you can't go wrong with that, especially if you're Unleashed and Unstoppable.
That's it.
Howard, how you doing today?
Doing fine, sir. Doing fine. I'm
All
Howard
right.
Wiggins. Like it says, I'm one of the top 35 leading interior designers in the world. I'm Music City royalty. I'm son of Leroy Wiggins, that plays steel guitar for Eddie Arnold. Helped start the Grand Ole Opry. Let's see, I've got a design look called Stacked and Layered. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see some examples of that. And then the newest thing is I decided I wanted to move to Chattanooga, which I know isn't a great big city, but that's where I want to go. So hopefully next year I'll be moving there.
And Terry Marie.
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I'm Terry Marie Nonstop. That's my trademark for several reasons. I've been acting and my whole life. I'm a fitness enthusiasm person. I love to motivate women in their 40s and 50s to stay fit. I've won several fitness competitions. I have the LA Masters Fitness Universe title of bikini. I also have won Muscle Beach. I've won several NPC contests and placed, have done very well. I do a lot of Brian's red carpet interviews. That's something I really, really like to do. I have an announcement to make. So last night I did my first open mic as a comedian, and it was so much fun.
Ooh, way to go, Terry. Way to go.
So my friend Maya has been very successful, like, doing small shows here in Los Angeles, and I got my nerve up to get on stage last night. So it was a lot of fun. So I can we'll see where this journey goes. But yeah, it was, I woke up this morning really like, oh my God, I did something I've never done before and challenged myself. And, I guess, you're never too old to try something new. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of try something new, and speaking of not too old, when you can be performing June 6th, people around the world, the man whose music moves the world. Or, it could be another thing, waltzing on a high wire with Randy Edelman. It's one of those things where you can't go wrong. Randy, first of all, how are you doing all these things? That's what I don't understand. Where are you getting your energy from?
I have the energy, just to do it. It's all things that I love to do. And it's been nice because it's sort of a culmination of the different areas that I've been involved. I've been fortunate, I've been obviously involved with film composing I was basically locked in this room I'm in for like 25 years. But then I got back into songwriting. And so you mentioned New York, but I've been spending just as much time doing concerts and stuff in London and recording some scores here. So it's been fairly comfortable. So I'll do Lincoln Center in about 10 days. And that's going to be, I've never done that before. And I did Carnegie Hall a few months before that. And it's fun. And I've done this new album that has that song, Pat Wants to Know, which is, a song about lack of couples who basically stay together, and that, so it's all stuff I like doing. The songs are personal songs I feel like writing, and the scores are things that I only do films that I, feel some emotional connection to. Last weekend, I was in the Midwest doing, the symphony was doing Gettysburg, my score to Gettysburg, which is done a lot on Memorial Day and July 4th and those kinds of things. So, just different things. So these things over the years now, it's really nice. I revisit them and they're there. They don't disappear, whether it's a song or a score or and now I'm getting to do these concerts, which is just me at the piano, but it's not like one of the things that and then I wrote. It's a whole musician kind of performance, but just with me at the piano. Most of the scores are orchestral, but I've arranged them so that I can hopefully pull them off just at the piano, and that's it. So come to Lincoln Center, June 6th, Friday night.
Is that easier to do? Just you at the piano these days? I mean, is that easier for you?
Well, no. I mean, me at the piano when I'm performing, it has nothing to do with when I score a film. I score a film and I utilize to score the film as necessary, whatever the sound is supposed to be. But it's different. I mean, songwriting is a different craft completely than film composing. And then performing is something completely, that's a different thing. I just, for some reason, it seems to feel good right now. I mean, I tell, I tell jokes, What can I tell?
This is good. Brian, it's interesting. I was waltzing on a high wire, the Birds of Freedom anthem. I'm curious, like when you're about to publish your album, what's your process for figuring out what's going to be your anthem song, or how, what order you're going to place things in? Is it just something from the heart, or did you have a particular story that you were wanting to tell?
I never decide that. When the group of songs is what I think fits with the concept, then I put the order together. I never put an order together until the tracks are being done, recorded, because you never can tell how a certain song will come out. And the song that you're talking about, Birds of Freedom, I never considered it an anthem. It just sort of came out. It sounds like that. I mean, it wasn't meant to be like that. And the first song, 21 Again, which is a complete kind of throwback. It's a jazz, kind of a sophisticated 40s or 50s jazz tune, which sounds like something was recorded years ago. And I started with that because it just seemed to be a good place to start. But I put it together when I'm finished recording, and believe me, I go crazy trying to decide, the slots. But but I do it mainly from how it feels. It's not preconceived.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it's interesting too, the way, I don't know if it always happens this way, but in this album, like a story is told, kind of a journey, if you will. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, that's what I wanted it to feel like. But it's a journey. But since all my songs are very personal songs. I mean, I never wrote, so many of my songs were recorded by other artists. I never wrote ever a song for another artist. And it's not like I wrote them for myself. I just wrote the songs and people did them. But they're all my personal stories, each of them. I mean, my granddaughters they don't even know. They still haven't heard it. They're on one of the cuts, about kids at Christmas time, and the glow of life, it's called. But so these things just sort of come about. I literally had a microphone when they were speaking around the table, or they would have just clammed up, and I got them saying something, and they had no idea. They weren't part of a record or a song. And then I just was able to use a few of the phrases they said in there. And then there's a song about this bird, not the bird of freedom, that comes right out here almost every day. He comes and he sits there and he listens. This has been going on for about 15 years. Seriously, it's called House Cat. And that's that song. It's like not exactly the most commercial way to, if you want to be a commercial songwriter, but that's just the way I do that. And it's completely different than when I'm scoring a film, which is a different craft,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Brian, if you're okay, I think that authenticity really carries over, and it's something that a lot of people are looking for now, even more than the commercial, if you will. I think people are hungry for that. They're hungry for the story. And so that, like the putting your microphone at the table with your granddaughters, that is amazing. I love that. I absolutely love that. So for me, that I'm like, oh, definitely, I want to make sure that I get this album and that I'm playing this album because of this beautiful story behind it and this authenticity that's there.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Randy, talk about taking your trip to London. I mean, what's the difference in, say, people coming in to, whether a tourist in New York, is everybody coming in to see you, but also going overseas? Has it changed a lot, or the audience is just love great things?
Well, that's the first place where my records happened. The only place my own records happened was London. That, I mean, a million years ago. So I always had that career there. And then when I kind of did an about face, that's before I started scoring films, then I would go back there to Abbey Road or Air Lyndhurst to record scores but I wasn't doing the songwriter thing anymore. So, but I'm very used to going there, and I love recording there. I love the musicians. I love the studios there. The studios have a different sonic sound with the echo chambers and stuff. It seems, and I like that for vocals and for orchestral recording. So, but it's not really any difference. I just did 2 concerts in London, and then in a place called Kent. Kent is right near where Chartwell, which was Winston Churchill's place out in the it's sort of on the outskirts of London, and I did a concert there, and so I'm used to going there. It's really I don't do anything different, when I'm there. I love London, So
when you first played at Carnegie Hall, what was that like for you? Because I haven't been there yet, but I'm going to see you. I think you're going to be there in December. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was
coming in
last
December.
I'd never played there before. It was fantastic. It's just great. And listen, I'm from right near there. I mean, I'm from, you could throw a stone from Carnegie Hall, not really, over the George Washington Bridge, and that's where I'm from. I'm from New Jersey, but not the Jersey, like the Boss, New Jersey. I never know. That's not New Jersey. New Jersey is the concrete jungle. Bergen County, across the bridge. There's not a speck of grass. You know what I mean? That's New Jersey. That's where I'm from. Not like Asbury Park. I don't mean the little Asbury Park, but Jersey is right over the bridge. And so it was great. And, like people literally who haven't seen from my high school, who I didn't even recognize, they showed up, because I wasn't I wasn't the kid in the school orchestra. You know what I mean? I wasn't that kid. I was just, trying to slot in with everybody else when I was a kid. I wasn't. So they're trying to figure out. I mean, if they knew me well, they knew I was always playing the piano and going on practicing. But so that was kind of interesting to see those people, and they'll probably be at Lincoln Center. But Carnegie Hall is great. It's like the old how to get to Carnegie Hall, practice. That was that's the story. It's true.
How much of 21 coming of age is a true story?
Oh, that's all true.
Yeah.
Every line in that song is true.
Wow.
I had that song buzzing around my head for years, and the changes. And if you play that and you play the beginning, nobody's ever recorded anything like that I don't even know when. You hear that guitar solo at the beginning, and it's like, what is this? And then it goes into that kind of jazz brush feeling. But if you want to hear that guitar solo is like played by an amazing guitarist named Adam Rogers in New York. You don't hear that anymore because people don't play there are people who play like that, but they're in different places. They're not on pop records. So that's just what it is. And I'm going to open with that, but it's too long. And if you notice, nobody would open. It's about 8 minutes long. That's like the kiss of death. Like that. Like I said, right now at this point in my life, I just do what I want. Can you imagine going into a record company like it used to be with like Clive Davis, who, by the way, may be there. And here's the opening single. It's the opening cut. It's 8 minutes long. Like, look at, throw me out of the office. Forget it. So I'm going to cut it down. But
yeah, but you can get away with it. You remember what they said about Led Zeppelin, Stay Away, they haven't too long, wrong,
Yeah, I mean, I get away with it, but, is anybody going to play it? That's what I need to know. Anyway, that's, but I don't, like you said, at this point, it doesn't really, I don't, I'm not beholden to who to play it. It's just, I want it on there, which is most of the stuff now when I look back. Same thing with the film scores, which, all these film scores, like Last of the Mohicans is a great example, because everybody thought that was they hated that film. I mean,
no, I love that film. I was one of those people.
Let me just
I was championing that film.
No, listen. Guess what? There wasn't any music to that from that film. There was no album. I couldn't get them to even consider there was no album. That film came out with nothing, zero. I finally convinced what's his name what's his name? I'll think of the company.
Daniel.
No, Daniel was he would never got enough. He never got enough credit for just looking like he looked in that film. Did you ever see this guy? He's like meekest. You sit next to him, and it's like you're sitting next to this quiet guy, and it's Daniel Day-Lewis, the guy in My Left Foot. And how did he look like that? Well, Michael Mann got him to, he bulked up and everything. But the point is, nobody would really, and finally about, I'd say a month later, which is a long time, after the picture was out and doing well, I got them to release the soundtrack. Now it's the biggest selling soundtrack of only music now, no songs or anything.
Did I lose you? Oh, did we lose you? Oh, no. Randy, you still there? He froze.
Yeah, I froze for a second.
It's similar to completely the opposite film that I did. A little film nobody heard of, blah, blah, blah. My Cousin Vinny.
That's my favorite film. What are you talking about?
Nobody wanted to know about that.
No. That's my favorite film.
Best film.
You're talking, I was there. I'm there. I'm there. Nobody would listen. And I said, I don't know if I won't say.
Of course you can. You're Randy.
This fucking girl, she's dynamite. Nobody, Marissa Tomei, she won the Oscar.
Marissa Tomei,
no one wins an Oscar for a comedy. But anyway, no, when that film out was absolutely nowhere. Now, people knew Joe Pesci from Goodfellas, but that was years before that.
But Joe never did anything like that. And then everybody knows the famous line, "What's a Ute?"
Oh, yeah. and the guy, the judge. Well, everybody was good, but the judge, Fred Gwynn.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Oh my God, yeah. So I have these. It's just weird. This
is why I like Randy, because he tells it as it is.
I fell into these things. Now I didn't just fall. But what I'm saying is I didn't pick My Cousin Vinny. I didn't pick Last of the Mohicans. I didn't pick, The Mask, classic film, one of the great comedy performances, Jim Carrey. I mean, or a little film called While You're Sleeping with a new actress named Sandra Bullock. Mm-hmm. These things came about. They just kind of fell in. And now looking back, those films are as popular today or bigger than they were when I did them, which is really nice. And that's why I can go around and bullshit.
And that's why I talk about those films, because my problem, Randy, with people, there's not a Siskel and Ebert, there's not a Rex Reed, David Sheen's passed, Sam Rubin's passed. A lot of these people aren't there to champion these films, but I do see a Turner Classic Movie Film Festival, which just happened 2 weeks ago. Those are considered classic films now. So when they have someone like you coming to speak, the audience loves that because they didn't get the opportunity. And I did a lot of these interviews for that, but I remember pushing those films on home video. I would order 48 copies of those things. And I go, listen to this. You can close your eyes and have a good night's sleep listening to the score of that. Yeah. And people thought I was nuts, but you can.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's so that is very that really gives me a good feeling about what I've spent a lot of my time locked in a room doing, because it's out there. I mean, and when I did last when I heard Gettysburg 2 weeks ago, or it seems like 2 weeks ago, but it's only last weekend, I hear that. And when you hear the music, sometimes you have to understand, you have to divorce yourself from what happened. Gettysburg is a project of a guy who, talk about Lockheed, who lived in a vacant warehouse in Atlanta for 20 years. And I'll tell you his name, and you all know who he is. For 20 years, he lived in a warehouse in Atlanta trying to convince the world that a 24-hour, not radio, TV news service was a viable thing. And everybody laughed at him. 20 years, you're crazy. And when he finally had to put cables up, telephone.
He froze. I bet I know who it is. Yeah.
Randy, you back again?
And that was, of course, Ted Turner. And
Absolutely.
I was fortunate, and I always was intrigued by this guy, and you hear all kinds. So he was the one that owned the rights to a book called Killer Angels, which was the story of the Battle of Gettysburg. And he was the producer, and he was like the last guy on the block where they were trying to get that made for years. And he bought it. And so I met him, and then was I more than met him. I, was fortunate that I became friendly with him. He was married to Jane Fonda at the time, and they came out here because I didn't want to do it. It was too much music, and it was originally for a new cable company had called, like, I never forget, TNT. It sounded like Dynamite. I said, I don't want to do this. It's a television thing. Well, I met him, and he was so fantastic and enthusiastic.
Passionate about it.
Passionate beyond belief. And then when I recorded the music and they heard it, they had me come down to Charlotte or someplace, and they had the premiere down there. And then I kind of started this wonderful friendship with them. But so that's the story. When I'm hearing Gettysburg, I'm thinking not only the movie and all the hours I put him in and the music, I'm thinking about Ted and his story. You know what I mean? It sort of, you would sound like, what does that have to do with Ted Turner, a guy who won the America's Cup, and supposedly, there's all these stories about him and blah, blah, blah. Well, it does for me, because he's the guy that made that movie, that produced it. And so each of the stories are different. I mean,
and the thing about that, the people love Gettysburg. I still listen to it, and then when I get a chance to watch it incomplete.
It's like, what is it? It's about Quincy Jones was involved, and it's such a story. But
wait a minute, Quincy Jones was involved?
Oh my God, the Quincy Jones part of that is unbelievable.
We got time.
Well, okay. Okay. So here's this. Now, by that time,
Randy's funny.
Now we get to find out about Quincy Jones.
It's going to be, I'll tell you. So you think it's going to be, okay, it's going to be like a bad Jaws, okay? Well, the fact of the matter is that it was obviously different. As soon as I saw it, I did a lot of laughing, and you had John Voight in that incredible role as the bad snake hunter, the guy sabotaging the thing. And I picked up on that, and I kept telling everybody, you had to play the ominous quality of it. You had to do that right on, as much as Jaws or anything else. But you had to do something else. So I had to figure out a way to do that. But the thing I remember, then I promise I'll tell you the Quincy thing. The guy who directed that was from Peru. Okay? Luis Loza. He didn't speak much English at all. And when he came over here, obviously there's something in his history why they hired him to do it. And there was a big film that he did that doesn't come to mind now. But when he came over here, and he started listening to stuff, which is a whole other thing when people come over after they have a preconceived notion of what their music is going to be, and they put in temp scores and stuff. I would play something, and he would say, "Stop! When you see the snake, hit it." You know what I mean? Boom! That's all. That was his direction. Well, that's not much of a direction, but I'm thinking of of right over there where he hit the wall here. It's like whenever there was a snake, he wanted, that's okay, but it has
That's
to be
interesting.
try to make it a little better. The Quincy Jones part of that was, now, one of the producers of that film was named Verna Hara. Now, if you know the name, Harrah's, as in Harrah's Club, remember, Lake Tahoe, Vegas, big gambling money guy, blah, blah, blah. Interesting tie-in, because I conducted in Las Vegas for Bobby Gentry, Ode to Billy Joe, who was also married to the same guy, Harrah. Okay. See, I see these stories are deep. Okay, but I forget about that. Forget about Ode to Billy Joe. But okay. So Quincy Jones was the boyfriend at the time, in the middle of, a million maybe other relationships, with Verna Hara. And he told her, as someone knowledgeable, and he's her boyfriend, you have to have authentic music to Anaconda. It's got to be like, okay, this is the composer's nightmare, this kind of shit. So Quincy Jones is telling his girlfriend, who's producing it, you got to have the real deal. You can't have like a guy like me, not me meaning him, a Hollywood composer, you know what I mean? You got to have the real thing. Okay. The next thing I know, because they had called me, I'm over at Universal, in the Universal executive dining room with Quincy Jones, Randy, and Dori Caymmi. And you say to yourself, and his wife, who the hell is Dori Caymmi? Well, Dori Caymmi is a famous South American guy, not film composer, musician. Phenomenal, whatever he did. Quincy, whether he had met him along the way, God knows, he knows. And so he set up this whole thing. And I'm sitting there knowing, when push comes to shove, when there's 90 minutes of nonstop music, who's going to be the one doing all the work? George Caymmi or Randy Edelman? Randy, you know it is. Yeah. But so what I did is, we're having this lunch, and this guy's sitting there with his wife, and he's going to be involved in our film. And I started saying, well, I don't know, we could do this. That's about an 8-minute sequence. There's a lot in the orchestra. And as I spoke, I saw Dori Caymmi get very small in his seat, realizing what was involved. That's the last time I ever saw Dori Caymmi, except the premiere. And sitting in back of me at the premiere was Verna Hara and Quincy Jones. And so got done, big, the picture turned out to be a big hit, and at the end, I was kind of looking for him to say something. Okay, it's not your guy, Dory, but he didn't show up, basically. And he looked at me and he said, Randy, now this Quincy Jones said, you really know how to use air. Does that mean I know when to, that was his comment.
That's interesting. All right, so Randy, we got to take a quick look at this clip. Pat wants to know, but when we come back, I'm going to talk about composers, because in my mind, you're in the same realm as John Williams. The music of John Williams. I'm waiting for the documentary of the music of Randy Edelman.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at this.
She keeps after him and looks in his eyes, but he's got nothing to say. Pat wants to know what Paul really cares about, but he goes on and looks the other way. She she just wants to know what he feels inside. But he's got no time to play. Pat wants to know what Paul really cares about, but he just goes and walks the other way. They go on together and have a life, keeping secrets, though they're man and wife. And she keeps trying, but they both keep on lying. And that's just the way it goes. And she keeps after him, but still he will stray. He cares for.
Why does that mean a lot to you, Carol?
Because, you know, it's that they settled, they went on, but the issues never resolved. Like at the very end, you know, he's still telling the story how Pat wants to know how he really feels. And I was like, what could,
it's emotional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's emotional. Like what could have been done? Why could she have walked away, or could there have been some resolution along the way, something, but it's like she just accepts what is and stays in it to the end. And at the very end, when you're showing him as an old man walking down the sidewalk, I was just like, no.
Listen, full disclosure, you shouldn't have been watching that. That video is like, that's not about the song. You know,
okay.
I had nothing, you know, that song speaks for itself. It doesn't need a video. And if it should have a video, that's not the one it should have.
Okay. Well, what would you put in its place?
Basically, it's you're exactly right. But it's the story of people that don't split up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Well, speaking of people who've been together for a long time, right, Howard?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Hey, Howard, while we got a chance, tell Randy about
also, full disclosure, it's not autobiographical. It's just something I observed.
Yeah.
Amongst it doesn't take any, you know, everybody can see that in lots of people. It's just a way to live, because you don't want to shake up the foundations of, you know, sometimes. And
yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
I think I get what you're feeling on that too, because I can feel the emotion of that.
Oh yeah, it's all emotional. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Randy, when's the documentary on you coming out about you and your music?
Well, you see, but you said something like John Williams. My thing isn't like John Williams at all. When did you hear John Williams do the stuff that I do? He's fantastic.
No. It's about
It's a different thing. It turns out that my thing has been going musically to these different places, but always being immersed at the moment, or much more than a moment, like 25 years with films in it. I don't mix the two. It's not like, oh, I'm writing a song and then I'm scoring a film. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just worked out like that. And it's worked out that I'm able for the last 2 years or something, or almost 3 years now, to do these shows and to go around. And then, now I'm involved in scoring a much different kind of film. But I don't, doing a documentary, I don't have any interest in that, because all I'm interested in is writing music. Like,
you know, spoken like a true composer. You know, the reason why I say that's that they need to know about you, all the stuff that you've done. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I think Waltzing on a High Wire is definitely an album worth having, for sure. And
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah.
And so, Brian, you come on, you do it.
No, I'm not a filmmaker though.
No,
My job is to...
no, you don't have. No, come on. You don't have to be a filmmaker to do a documentary about something you're passionate about. You just get to
True.
the right people.
True.
I heard an invitation issued, Brian.
I got to go here first. Because I mean, no, you're right about that. You don't, as long as you're passionate about it. Mine would be drum and bugle corps, because I think about all of those kids playing a lot of these music. I mean, that's how I learned classical music, from Phantom Regiment, from Rockford, Illinois. I learned jazz, from the Blue Devils, from Concord, California. So that's how I got into music. That's why scoring to me is important, listening to this and turning people on. In the old days, we'd be going to Tower Records and buying all of these soundtracks. Yeah. Now it's difficult. I don't know how they do it. And it bothers me that a lot of kids don't get a chance to go out and
they don't
record store.
It's a double-edged sword, It's like with film scores now, people don't have to go out and look for, you put My Cousin Vinny on their phone, soundtrack, and boom, there it is. They can listen to all the cues, which is good. But if obviously you don't have to go out and purchase them.
You went to Tennessee not too long ago, I think. I heard you were a hit down there. I just missed you, I guess.
Yes, at the Grand Ole. Yes, that was a kick. Yeah, I had never been there before.
What was that like for you?
Excuse me?
What was that like for you?
Oh, it was fun. It was great. I did a couple of songs, There were a lot of people there.
Of course. They were like following you around. You're like the newest Beatles.
I was walking. I walked like out on the stage and to the wrong place. It's like I walked to the piano, but I thought it was a piano that was covered up, but it wasn't. It was just a piece of furniture, and they had to lead me back. This is sort of like Joe Biden leading them around. I was like, not that. Sorry, sorry.
Hey, me and Howard, we went to go see the Brenda Lee documentary 2 weeks ago, and I had never been to the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, and I thought that was great, seeing a lot of.
I was because Jackie did that. Jackie was in that, the Brenda Lee thing. I mean, Jackie is Brenda Lee did my wife Jackie's songs, many of them. And when she was there at the Country Music Museum last year, Jackie did that. The thing you saw.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Howard grew up with Brenda Lee going to his house all the time, right, Howard?
Yes, great. Sir. Actually, my stepfather raised Brenda Lee after she lost her parents. He was her godfather.
Oh, so. She's the best, Brenda. Yeah. We love her, and she recorded. That song "Dum Dum," and this is long before I met Jackie, but she recorded lots of Jackie songs. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, it was
in the documentary.
Oh, go ahead, Howard. Sorry, cut you off.
I just said it in the documentary that she did a lot of Jackie's songs. Yeah.
See, and Randy, I didn't know about that. That's why I want more people, and we talk about these things week after week. Howard and I, we still talk about going to see Gloria Gaynor, the documentary that people don't know, or Luther Vandross. And that's why I say people need to know all the things that you've done. That's coming from me, because I love pushing those things. I love doing that because more people need to know around the world. That's why I say that.
Well, I'm trying. I mean, I'm out there. I've been, doing this stuff now, which I haven't been. But the whole thing is that I couldn't have done what I did with the films and doing what I'm doing now at all.
True.
I mean, it was 25 years straight. You can't do 100 movies and all those. I mean, so they're not all hits and well known. But in order for me to, we haven't talked about hardly any of them, give you this whole.
Off the top of my head, I'm hearing Ghostbusters off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, okay, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's not like, I was traveling around doing concerts, writing songs. No, could never. I mean, you talk about the string of the Ghostbusters 2 I did and that's how I met the great, who he passed away last year, along with so many other people that I knew, Ivan Reitman.
Yep.
I met him, and we did Ghostbusters 2, and then I did Twins, and then I did Kindergarten Cop, and I did all those things with Ivan. And he was a real tough guy to deal with, really, just those were like, I couldn't go out my door when I was scoring those films. It was just really intense. And they were all kind of, what do you call it, tentpole movies. So there was a lot of pressure. And that's how I kind of cut my teeth scoring films, doing those big, and they were big orchestral scores. I mean, they weren't little. And movies like Twins and Kindergarten Cop, I do a segment of those things in the piano show that I'm doing. People don't really, those are beautiful, charming movies.
Mm-hmm.
Hear Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they kind of laugh. Watch those movies. They're gorgeous, brilliantly made, charming. That's what they're, charming movies. Both of them. Danny DeVito and Twins, that whole, a counter thing going, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in that film is just great, But that stuff took, just so much time, and Triple X with Vin Diesel and Rob Cohn, who directed that, and Dragonheart, and the Bruce Lee story, all those things. Just
great films. Great.
And it's not just the films too. I mean, the work, thing like working with the Carpenters, Barry Manilow, Dionne Warwick. I mean,
right. But yeah, no, that was great. But I never worked with any of those people.
Okay.
They recorded my songs. Remember I said before, I never wrote a song. Now, I went on the Carpenters, again, that's a 2-hour show, me and them, because they discovered me like when I was 20, needle in a haystack. And Richard and the two of us had similar keyboard that we played a certain way. And then they recorded songs and took me out on tour. That's a different story. But, a sad one. I do that in my show too. Barry Manilow, different, there's all different stories, but I didn't spend a lot of time with them. Dionne Warwick, that's another 2-hour show.
Well, we got a couple minutes left, but I say that because those those documentaries are excellent. The Dionne Warwick, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and so they're coming out and they're hits because people are just thirsty for that. We're not seeing a lot of those tentpoles. I mean, this past weekend, Mission Impossible came out. I actually went to the movies to see it. I'm not getting to a lot of the movies. The first thing I want to hear is dun, 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 because I go back to when it was created of hearing that, and you never forget that. And a lot of your stuff that you created is like that for me. Randy, you got about 2 minutes. What do you want people to know about you, and talk about Lincoln Center? Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about Lincoln Center. As far as knowing something about me, I just would love it if they heard, whether it's a score or a song, and listen to it the way that you have with Waltzing on a High Wire. You should get the album. If you don't have that album, it seemed like you didn't have it. Brian, he's going to get it. Get it from Eileen. But okay, Lincoln Center, that's going to be great. I do 2 hours plus at a piano, no intermission. I never get up from the piano. I don't bow. I just keep playing. Ooh. A few jokes once in a while. I'm getting better at that. And I do it's some people come and they think they're going to come in, they're going to see a symphony orchestra playing these film scores. And of course they don't. I'm sitting at a piano, and most of it is my songs. But then I do a segment where I put together a medley of 25 years of film scoring in 9.5 minutes. Of course.
Wow.
It's like 13 minutes. And I speak a little about what I told you about as I'm playing these things. And most of my favorite ones, not necessarily the ones that were the most successful, but I do that. And then of course I do very few of them as far as that I scored 100 films. I obviously can't do that many, but I do that. And that's really the area that I do. I really get into it. I don't sugarcoat it, and I don't do, here's a film theme here and there. I just do that segment, and I end it, funnily enough, with not a film piece of music, but a TV piece of music that I did that's lasted for 1 billion years, called about a guy who could build a bomb out of a chocolate bar. It was called MacGyver. Another show that nobody thought would ever even be on, but that was in the old days when they picked up things in network, but they loved it.
Show. Yeah.
And that became, and so I end the whole film thing with all those serious scores. I end it with MacGyver, and everybody knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so this is it. So everybody, you got to go see him, Lincoln Center, June 6th, the man whose music moves the world, and it does. And I always tell people, go to and you can find a record store. You got to support small business so you can find those great stories, because you never know who those next composers are going to be. And I have to always say this, Randy, got to thank you for coming on, because I know you've been busy. I've been tracking every place that you've been.
Well,
and you've been busy. And congratulations to that, because you deserve it. Yeah. And I'm going to see you going to Carnegie Hall, because I've never been there. That's why I told Eileen and Jimmy, I'm going there to see him. So you're going to see me there. And I always say this, Randy, thank you so much for your time and everything like that.
Absolute pleasure. Nice seeing all of you.
Have a good night tonight. A better day tomorrow. You see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, because the world needs it. This is Movie Reviews and More, and we will see you next week.
Bye.